Set your project directory to a folder called Dynamics. Click OK. Let's go to File. We're going to load a scene from the Scenes folder called SoftBodyDynamics2. In the previous lesson, we used the spherize effect with a draped cloth soft body dynamic to simulate collision. We're going to simulate cloth wrinkling now using the hold effect for soft body dynamics. Let's go to a top view. I have a generic arm here that I've added two materials to. One has all the default added to the cloth section, and the other section has a shader added called hold. That's the hand and the base of the object. The first thing you should do when you're getting ready to apply wrinkles is make sure that your base mesh is deforming perfectly. That is, everything has moved smoothly around when you animate it. What we're doing is we're making sure that all of the edges get shorter where we want the wrinkles to happen the most, because Messiah's soft bodies are going to try and keep the edges of those polygons the same length, hence the wrinkling effect. So make sure your mesh is moving as smoothly as possible. Click into the animate mode to reset the keyframe. Let's go into Setup. Select our arm mesh, close down New Items. Let's go to the Effects tab and highlight Soft Body Dynamics. Add that effect. Just going to close these down and go directly to the Soft Body node. We can expand that so it's quite large so we can see everything. Let's go right to Soft Mapping. Since Wings uses a lowercase d, I'm just going to type in a lowercase d for the default. This is your material surface. So if we go into Animate now, go back to a perspective view and just press play, we get a soft body dynamic as the textbook example. Check hold. So when we scrub back and forth here, you can see that hold is trying to keep its original shape, but it is bouncing around a lot. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stiffen that up. Now if we just grab, let's go to frame 40, we're going to animate this wrinkling up. You can see that it's buckling wherever our edges have gotten shorter through the weighting. But it is waving around a lot. So let's go back. Let's just play this on a loop. Click on our Soft Body Dynamics node. And the first thing we're going to do to fix most of this is change our stretch corrections and time subsamples. I'm going to lower this down, and I'm going to raise time subsamples to 5. That means it's doing more calculations every frame to check to see if it's supposed to stay. You can see that it's staying pretty well. If we pause this and scrub back and forth, yes, it wiggles around a lot. We don't need to change any settings here for the different settings. We don't need to worry about fluid density, but we are going to use damping. So let's turn the loop back on, and we'll turn damping to 10. Damping keeps the object from rebounding so much. You can see that it's not bouncing as much. We can set this to 30, and we have an incredibly stiff mesh down at the bottom here, and it's trying really hard not to wrinkle. Spring damping affects dynamic. Let's pause that. Spring damping is a little different. You go spring damping high, but you don't ever hit 1. You go just before 1. So in spring damping, I'm just going to type in 0.9, and as I'm moving it, the springs try to keep themselves pretty close. So as we press play, you can see what's going on here. It's actually staying pretty well. The global weight is the other factor. If it has to move lots of weight around, it's going to be a lot of rebound. So we're going to lower the weight down so gravity doesn't have as much effect. I'm going to type in 0.75 for the weight. So now that it's lighter, it's actually staying with the mesh more as it's moving around. If you want to see how it moves even faster, you can scrub around and you can see that it drags. Since it is a dynamics calculation, it is going to drag if you do really quick movements. But it's only going to be a few frames before it catches back up again. If you set the global weight to 0.5, it will try to keep up even faster. Ideally, you want to set the global weight as less as possible so that it keeps up at the most time, but your dynamics calculations is making all of your wrinkles look good. So 0.25, let's see how it works. Okay, so we have a little bit of jittering going on. So we're going to change that back to 0.5. So the jittering goes away, so there's something for the calculation to move on. Now the Rules go the same here for strut, shear, and flex. If you want to simulate different types of material, you can just deactivate these. Or you can change the length that they can squash and stretch. If you don't want very much shear, set that to 1 and let strut take over. I prefer just strut if I'm doing anything kind of silk-like. But leave them all on if you want something fairly thick. Now let's run this through its paces. I'm just going to grab and multi-select all of the biceps and just twist them up. You can see that they wrinkle pretty well. Doesn't look like there's much stuff in there, but this is where spherize effect comes in. If you use a spherize effect to poke everything out, then you can have an impression of things pushing the cloth back out along its normals. You can also use this with use predeformed points, so spherize also has a name in the equation. I'll multi-select all of these. Just turn on multi-edit so they all rotate at once. Just rotate these till they wrinkle. So here's a good stable set of rules for creating wrinkled clothing. Make sure that you have hold checked. Make sure your damping is set high, your global weight is set low, your spring damping is set high but never to 1. Make sure your stretch corrections are less than what they are and your time subsamples are higher, so it's doing more calculations to try and correct your cloth. Let's go to File. We're going to save this scene as SoftBodyDynamics 3.